The vault opens. Welcome back. I am the archivist. Every week I open a file that was never meant to be found. Tonight, we open another one. The file reads, Disney, the darkest chapter, classified, Disney. The name alone conjures something specific, magic, childhood, innocence, the happiest place on earth. For nearly a century, Disney has been the world's most powerful manufacturer of dreams, the company that made you believe in fairy tales, that told you wishes come true, that gave you your first heroes, your first villains, your first understanding of good and evil. But behind that carefully constructed magic, there is another story. A story Disney has spent enormous resources keeping away from the public. Tonight, the archivist opens 5 files, 5 chapters of Disney history that were never meant to be part of the story. File 1. Walt Disney, the FBI informant. The archivist has touched on this before, but tonight we go deeper. Walt Disney did not simply provide names to the FBI, he was one of J. Edgar Hoover's most valued Hollywood informants. His relationship with the FBI went back to 1940. He provided the FBI with names of employees he suspected of communist sympathies. He helped the FBI gain access to Hollywood studios. He testified before the House Un-American Activities Committee in 1947, naming names publicly, destroying careers. The people he named lost their jobs. Some were blacklisted for years, unable to work in the industry they had dedicated their lives to. What makes this particularly disturbing is the contrast. Walt Disney was publicly the creator of stories about loyalty, about friendship, about believing in the good of people. While privately, he was reporting on his own employees, his own colleagues, people who trusted him, to a government agency that used that information to destroy them. His FBI file, released after his death, shows a relationship that went far beyond occasional cooperation. Walt Disney was an active and enthusiastic participant in one of the most destructive periods of political persecution in American history. File 2. The treatment of Snow White's voice. Adriana Caselotti was 19 years old when she provided the voice of Snow White in 1937. She was paid $970, one flat fee, no royalties, no residuals, no ongoing compensation of any kind for a performance that would earn Disney hundreds of millions of dollars over the following decades. But the payment was not the most disturbing part. Walt Disney personally ensured that Adriana Caselotti could never work again. He told her she could not use her voice professionally anywhere else, because, as he reportedly put it, it would spoil the illusion. She was banned from radio appearances, from other film work, from any professional use of the voice that had made Snow White immortal. She spent the rest of her working life in obscurity. When she asked Disney for compensation and for some acknowledgement of what her voice had built, she was refused. She died in 1997, at the age of 80. She never received additional compensation. The voice of Snow White, one of the most recognizable voices in animation history, spent her life in financial struggle while the character she gave life to generated billions. File 3. The Sherman Brothers. The Sherman Brothers, Richard and Robert, wrote some of the most beloved songs in Disney history. It's a Small World, A Spoonful of Sugar, Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, The Jungle Book, the music that defined the Disney sound for a generation. What most people do not know is that Richard and Robert Sherman hated each other completely, totally, for most of their adult lives. They had not spoken voluntarily outside of work obligations for decades. They sat on opposite sides of the room when they had to be in the same space. They communicated through intermediaries. The music that made millions of children happy was written by two brothers who could not be in the same room together without it becoming unbearable. In interviews, both brothers have spoken about their relationship. Neither has ever fully explained what broke it so completely. The songs remain. The magic remains. But behind every note of "It's a Small World," there was silence between the two men who wrote it. File 4. The exploitation of theme park workers. The Walt Disney Company is one of the most profitable entertainment companies in the world. Its theme parks generate billions of dollars annually. And for years, the workers who made those parks run, the people in the costumes, the ride operators, the cleaners, the food service workers, were paid wages so low that many of them were homeless. In 2018, a study by Occidental College found that 73% of Disneyland workers in California did not earn enough to cover basic living expenses. 11% reported being homeless or having been homeless in the previous 2 years. Some workers reported sleeping in their cars in the Disneyland parking lot before their shifts, working at the happiest place on earth, and having nowhere to live. Disney's response to the study was to dispute its methodology. In 2018, California voters passed a minimum wage increase specifically targeting large theme park operators. Disneyland workers received a pay increase. The gap between Disney's public image, the magic, the joy, the carefully maintained fantasy, and the reality of the people who created that magic every day remains one of the most documented contradictions in corporate America. File 5. The Vault. This is perhaps the most uniquely Disney entry in tonight's file. For decades, Disney operated what was known internally and publicly as the Disney Vault. Classic animated films, Snow White, Cinderella, Bambi, The Little Mermaid, were deliberately kept out of circulation for years at a time, released for a limited window, then locked away, then released again, then locked away again. The official explanation was to preserve the magic, to make each release feel special. The real reason, documented in business analyses and confirmed by former Disney executives, was to create artificial scarcity, to drive up demand, to ensure that each new generation of parents would pay full price for films their parents had already paid full price for. Decades of children grew up believing that certain Disney films were rare, special, hard to find. They were not rare. They were locked in a vault by a corporation that had calculated exactly how much more money could be made by withholding them. The Disney Vault was officially ended with the launch of Disney Plus in 2019. Every film became available immediately. The magic of scarcity disappeared overnight because it had never been magic at all. Before the archivist closes this file, one final entry. 5 stories, an FBI informant, an exploited voice actress, 2 brothers who hated each other, workers sleeping in parking lots, and artificial scarcity dressed as magic. The archivist does not ask you to stop loving Disney. The films are real, the music is real, the joy that millions of children have felt watching those stories is real, but the company that created those stories operated with the same calculations and compromises and sometimes cruelties as every other large corporation in history. The magic was real, and so was everything behind it. The file is closing. But before it does, the archivist asks you one question. Knowing what is in this file, does it change how you see the magic? Or does the magic exist separately from the people and decisions that created it? Think about that. The vault closes. For now, if you are new here, subscribe. The vault closes for now. If you are new here, subscribe. Every file we open is one they never wanted you to read. I will see you in the next vault.